My name is Stuart Rosen. I'm a professor of speech and hearing science here at UCL. My work deals in many different aspects of speech and hearing. I'm interested both in the performance of typically developing and normal hearing listeners, but also in what happens to people with different kinds of disorders, what happens as people age, when they have hearing impairments, how they can operate with different kinds of hearing prostheses like hearing aids and cochlear implants. And really interestingly, it seems that my work over the past few years has really been focusing in particular on the problems of perceiving speech in the presence of background sounds. So my big research question is really to do with how the ability to understand speech develops through childhood, because it looks like children are much more sensitive to being disrupted by at least certain kinds of background noises than adults are. So far, what I've been doing in this research is just try to track children's abilities primarily through primary school, because it looks like that's where most of the development goes on. And I've been comparing how well children do in listening to simple sentences when there's a sort of very uninteresting, just noisy sound in the background, as opposed to where there's other speech. So for example, I have sentences like this. You can see here a picture of a dog, and they hear sentences like,
"Show the dog where the pink 8 is."
Show the dog where the pink 8 is, and they just have to click on the pink 8. And we can present these in the background of just a simple, steady noise, something a bit like a Hoover going.
"Show the dog where the white 9 is."
Or we can present them when there's another talker in the background. So now there's a man in the background saying a similar sentence, but you still have to just listen to the woman saying, "Show the dog."
"Show the dog where the green 8 is."
And I think most people can already tell that those are very different kinds of tasks, that when you hear just some noise in the background, your difficulties stem from the fact you just don't seem to hear the kind of thing you're listening for. Whereas when there's another talker, it's like you hear everything, you just don't know which thing you're supposed to listen to. So I've been tracking children's abilities through primary school, and the really interesting thing is that when we put this just steady noise in the background, so children, say at the beginning of primary school, are a little bit worse than adults at that test, but really not by very much. And by the time they're about 8 or 9 years old, they're really just like adults. But when we put that other talker in the background, children at the beginning of primary school are absolutely terrible at that. In fact, adults are better able to ignore the talker in the background than they are the steady noise. Whereas with children, it's exactly the opposite effect. So that the children are more disrupted in their speech by hearing this other talker in the background. And that ability seems to develop very quickly through primary school. But even when children leave primary school at age about 11 and a half, they're still not showing the adult pattern of performance of being better able to deal with the single talker in the background than this plain noise. I think this kind of research is really important, because, not least because of the way schools are now organized. You know, we have an image from films back in the day of children sitting in rows and just listening to a single teacher where there's really absolute quiet. And as I'm sure all of you know, that's not the way that schools run now. There's a lot of group work, there's a lot of background noise, and so it can be quite difficult, especially for younger children, it appears, to be able to focus on a particular, say, teacher's voice when there's a background of other sounds going on.